Ms. Legalista here. Thank you for joining the video. I have seen and watched this newly released cell phone video on 11 Alive. They've shared this video that might provide some insight as to what really got Christina Peterson riled up. You see this video, and it's hard to sort of watch and understand that what you may be looking at is a man. mm, Going at it with a woman. And so it's sort of hard to see exactly who he's hitting. But if you're a person who feels like I can't stand by and watch this happen, like all of these other people standing around, I'm going to do something. And then what follows after that is law enforcement showing up, and you're still in this very emotional state. You might not bring your best self to that. Now, I talked about another video. I talked about in another video how, there's this higher expectation for judges in terms of how we act, not just in the courtroom, but when we're out in public. Like, people put you up on this pedestal, and they really expect that you're going to carry yourself in a certain manner. And it's a lot. It's a lot of weight to have put on you. And it can be really tough because guess what? Everybody is human. I don't know a person that's not human, that does not make errors, that does not make mistakes. And here's the thing: you don't want to be defined by that really bad day that you showed up and you didn't bring your best self. You don't really want those one or two instances to define your whole lifetime of work, especially if all of those other times were really good. And what we're talking about is not necessarily you going out and hurting someone. Okay. And I'm not saying that we need to downplay all of the other issues that the state Supreme Court brought up when they were talking about saying, hey, we need to take her out off the bench. I'm not talking about overlooking any of that. But what I'm saying is, let's keep in mind the circumstances under which all of this happened and ask yourself, would you be bringing your best self when the officer showed up? If you were the one who was trying to jump in and trying to break up, are you going to have your right mind there? You may say a lot of things that you regret the next day, a lot. So it's really hard to watch this, but let's go ahead and take a look at it.
Attorney says it's not just about the police body camera footage released Friday, but also what happened before Atlanta police showed up to Red Martini Lounge in Buckhead Thursday.
She didn't even know the officer was there.
Arrington believes Peterson, who is a probate judge, was too distracted to notice. In the video, you can see commotion outside of the lounge. A man is seen punching a woman who identifies herself as Alexandria Love several times. You then see Judge Christina Peterson come into the frame.
It's kind of blurry right there, but this is that moment where she is stepping up and saying, I'm going to jump in here. But even with this, we don't know what was going on immediately before this, but you saw what the gentleman was doing. He was obviously throwing punches at someone, and we heard what the news media had to say about that. Now, here's the thing. The attorney who spoke is exactly right. You can come to the defense of another person. And I think that is going to be one of those things that he's really going to be talking about when it comes to her charges. And we're going to take a look at her charges in just a minute. But her mindset, so understand, her mindset may not have been where it usually is. We're not going to take into account the other issues that went before the Georgia State Supreme Court here. We're just talking about that night, June 20th, when she came out of Red Martini Restaurant and Lounge. And this is going on. We don't know what transpired inside. This is going on outside. She is trying to intervene. She obviously feels the need to intervene. And you can see that there's some people that are sort of standing around. There's some people looking like they're trying to get things out of the way. You can see people walking by. If I'm there, you have to ask yourself, would you stay and try to help? Or are you concerned that this is going to escalate, and become something other than people just having their fists out? That's the concern now. I mean, a lot of times now you're worried about somebody going to their car and coming back. You're worried about somebody going home, going to get friends, and coming back. And who wants to be around at that point? Nobody. Nobody wants to be involved. You have a person here who is recording it. And that goes two ways. Again, that goes two ways. One is, well, hey, you're recording this. Why aren't you calling 911? Somebody is being hurt. The other side of that is that cell phone video may be very helpful in understanding what her mindset was when she felt the need to intervene. So it may be evidence that is very important when it comes to the outcome of what happens to her case. You know, it's one of those things to keep in mind. Do you record? Do you jump in? Do you run away? What do you do? Those are your options. What would you do? You let me know. But you can see this new cell phone video, and I'm sure her attorney is probably going to be taking a very hard look at that. Let's go back and take a look at the charges, though. Let's go back and take a look at the charges. All right. I don't usually record this late in the day, so the sun is sort of doing its thing on the other side of the room. And I'm just like, wait, look, that's not working. Let me get myself resituated here. So here we have the police report, City of Atlanta Police Department. You see the case number there, the date. You have an idea of the time, where this is located. Not too far. Okay, offense 1 is simple assault. We've got the offense location. We've got her name there. And what I really want to do is I want to scroll down to this section where we go over the narrative. Okay, so now we've seen this video. Understand that the officers have shown up, and supposedly there's this interaction between Christina Peterson and this officer. Now let's read the officer's report. It says, on June 20th, 2024, I, Officer Wadsworth, while working a department-approved extra job, you see the location there, overheard a loud argument occurring in front of the location. That's right. So I did forget that part. He was actually there working. So this is not somebody who showed up, even though other officers later showed up, having to understand what was going on. He was already there working at this location. As I walked towards the front entrance, I observed a large crowd forming around a female who was being restrained by security due to a fight that occurred prior to my arrival. As I was investigating the incident, the arrestee, later identified as Christina Peterson, walked towards me and told me to, and you can see what is said there, before punching me in the chest neck area with a closed fist. After being punched, I placed Ms. Peterson in custody. So let's stop there for a second, because I do want to sort of talk a little bit. I made some reference to this earlier. People coming on the scene, not really understanding what's going on. And even though this officer is there, even he is not sure what in the world is happening. He says, there's this loud, I guess, commotion going on. He overheard a loud argument. And so he goes to check on it. This is his workspace. He's supposed to be checking this stuff out, making sure everything's okay. He goes to check on it. And that's when this altercation occurs. And it says she was being restrained by security. So she was already restrained at the time that he walks out. So note that the restraining officer is not the one she hits. It's this guy, this gentleman who comes up. So then he says, Ms. Peterson did not give a reason for striking me, nor was she involved in the initial altercation. Ms. Peterson was transported to Atlanta City Jail, but was refused entry after failing to provide her name or any biographical information that could be used to identify herself. Ms. Peterson's fingers were placed on a scanner for identification, but proved to be unsuccessful. Ms. Peterson was then taken to Fulton County Jail to be identified, which also proved unsuccessful. Throughout the process, Ms. Peterson advised me multiple times that I would have to, quote, work in order to discover her identity. Okay, let's stop there before we finish that paragraph. One of the things that her attorney points out is it's not against the law to go out and have a couple of drinks as long as you're of age and you aren't doing anything else along with that that might be illegal. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Anybody can go out and do that. The problem here though is her whole demeanor and behavior after she is picked up. And I said this in the other interview. I talked about the law enforcement officer that I know who teaches people how to have interactions with law enforcement. And she talks about comply first and then complain. If there's a problem, complain afterward. Go ahead and comply. And so this whole sort of idea of I'm not going to tell you who I am, I'm going to make you work for it. It just does not sound becoming of a judge. That is just not what we expect from our elected judicial officials. I think one of the things that is really striking about this is that we usually set judicial candidates apart from other elected officials. We don't think of them as just and I'm going to use some negative language here, as sort of the slimy politicians, doing the same old kind of thing that we expect from them. We tend to think of our judicial elected officials as not politicians, but people who have sworn to uphold the law and to act in a fair manner when it comes to how we treat people. And when you see this sort of behavior, this sort of, I'm going to make you work for it. And I'm not even going to say that with an attitude, but just you would have to work in order to discover my identity. Why make him work? You're a judge. Why not just say, hey, my name is Christina Peterson. I live at so-and-so address, and just go ahead and share that information with him. He is going to find out. It's not like you're from another planet in another universe and he's never going to know who you are. That's just not the way it works. And so eventually all of this is going to come out. Remember, everybody's got a camera pointed at you when you walk out into the world now. Those that you see and those that you don't see. And the thing you need to be thinking about is, how is this going to look tomorrow morning on the news? And part of what I'm saying here is that's probably not where her mindset was. Like I said, all those other instances that the Supreme Court was concerned about aside, I'm not talking about those. I'm just talking about this incident on June 20th. You've just been through this whole thing where you're seeing this other woman, you're trying to intervene. You feel like nobody else is helping. You got to jump in there. You got to do something. You saw how involved she was with that. It wasn't a cautious kind of, I'm going to jump in there. This guy appeared to be bigger than she was, appeared to be a much larger person. And yet she's going to jump in there because she sees something going wrong. Now, again, I don't know what led up to all of this. She could have been a part of that. I don't know. But what I'm saying is there's a lot going on there. And I can imagine that your mindset, that you may not bring your best self forward when you have just witnessed and been a part of something like that. Now, one of the things we heard in the dash cam video, there was a gentleman who was speaking to, it sounded like, who was speaking to one of the law enforcement officers and was saying something like, the guy was slugging this woman. The guy was slugging this woman. And where is all the uproar about that? And what's going on with him? And I think that is something we need to take a look at too. What was going on there? That's something that I think is going to come into play when they start looking at her behavior that evening and taking this into account. All of this that I just read, I want to bring that back up. But you can imagine that, the other side, the prosecution is going to be like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that she was really upset. She punched him. It was simple assault. There you go. Here's the video. They're going to pull all of that out. All right, let's go to this last part of this paragraph here. It says, when asked for her name while inside the patrol vehicle, Ms. Peterson continuously replied, look at that. See, this is going to be a problem. This is going to be a problem for her. She didn't say it one time. It says continuously replied. Now, at this point, it's sort of like, okay, you not only brought your not best self, but you continue to bring your not best self to this. Continue to bring that. Who is saying this? Who is saying this? This is someone who is an elected official that we hope presents themselves as a role model to our youth who are watching. All right. In this case, no. Ms. Peterson demanded I call certain individuals employed by various government agencies working inside the city limits of Atlanta in exchange for revealing her name. So this is when you start to feel that little bit of slime come in, right? It's like, oh, well, you don't know who I am. I know this person. I know that. That's what that starts to feel like then. Like, I'm taking advantage of my position as a judge, and I'm going to throw out there that I'm this important person. Look at all these people. Go out, call them, and I'll tell you what my name is. It's concerning. It's concerning. It's very concerning. Through my investigation, based on voluntary statements given by Ms. Peterson, I was able to discover her true identity. Like I said, she doesn't live on a planet in another universe. So I don't really understand how she thought that that was gonna play. I just don't get that. And then the last part here on this page, Ms. Peterson would eventually be transported to the Zone 2 main precinct where warrants would be taken out for the charges of battery against a police officer and obstruction of justice. See, she could have not had that obstruction of justice one had she just complied. Remember, I told you that friend of mine who teaches this, she goes, go ahead, comply, and then complain later. Comply first, complain later. After the approval of the warrant application, Ms. Peterson would be transported to Fulton County Jail by Officer Spence. No property was recovered from Ms. Peterson during this incident. Sergeant Friedman was notified of the incident and assisted with the investigation. Nothing further at this time. And then you have the second page, again, some addresses there where the report was taken. And then they have this other information that they're required to fill out, use of force form now, because they want to know, about use of force. And again, here, just some of the same information. So that's it. There you have it. You got this new video. You've got the actual report and what it says. You put the two together now. You're wondering how this is going to be resolved, what this is going to look like for her. We now know that she will no longer be serving on the bench. But here's the thing, there's always a pathway forward. One of the things I think sometimes we forget is that, during moments like this, it can be hard to imagine what that pathway forward looks like. But everybody makes mistakes, right? Everybody makes mistakes. Part of stepping up and being able to move forward is just saying, look, I messed up. I messed up big time. And apparently I've been messing up for a while. And I obviously need to take a step back and regroup. And I need to take some time. So here's something some of you may or may not know. Here's how it works in the state of North Carolina. You're a licensed attorney. There are programs out there that can help you. It can be everything from substance abuse to financial issues, to health issues, to just stress. Most state bars have programs in place that you can use for free or for minimal cost. And, my recommendation would be for her to start there. Now, I don't know what she's going to do. I don't know her, but that's a way for her to be able to start to pull things back together. And I almost feel like my phone, I forgot to turn off. I almost feel like there does need to be some sort of public statement of remorse in terms of her actions not just that night, not that night specifically, because we don't know all the details yet, right? She hasn't gone to court yet on those charges. But there were the other matters that the Georgia State Supreme Court looked at, all these other issues that they said they had with her behavior on the court. And so, as a public official, she can come forth and make a statement as a former public official now, and speak to some of that. And I know people who have been in some of these positions and who have said, "Hey, I messed up. I did this thing, and yes, it was all in the news. And now I'm just going to just be very frank and up front on here on my account. I'm going to share it with you, and I'm just going to put a statement out here. I apologize. I messed up. I got it wrong. I should not have done that. And here's how I'm moving forward." And I tell you, people appreciate that so much, so much. And yet we just don't see a whole lot of that. We don't see a whole lot of that. Why? Because there are these expectations that, you don't want to share the hard parts of your life with the world, right? Because everybody's going to take you down. All you have to do is go on YouTube. Anybody who shares anything personally, people who don't know them will be up there talking about them. And here you have a public official, and here I am, an attorney, and there are other attorneys and there are other, news outlets, other people talking about this too. And so people are going to talk about you. People are going to talk about you whether you say something or not. And a lot of times we're really afraid of getting that kind of feedback and feeling some kind of way about that. And so we don't step out there and do that. But I'll tell you this, people will have a lot more respect if you simply just say, "I messed up." And I said this in another video too. As an attorney, look, I've been an attorney a long time, which means I've made a lot of mistakes. A lot of mistakes. And there's still things that I don't get right. Okay? I am human. There are still things that I do not get right. And, I've been in a situation before where I did get something really wrong, and I had to call up the other party and apologize. I had to have a plan in place to get things back on track, and so you own it and you move on. You do the best you can. You do the best you can. And I think when people see that in you and feel like it's from the heart and not some sort of half rear end effort, and they really feel like you're being sincere, then they will be more supportive of you. Okay. It may take them some time to come back 200% behind you, but by having those conversations with people and letting people know, yeah, okay, y'all heard me, and I I said some things I should not have said, you know? Share that with people, because I guarantee you some of those people who are listening to you have been in that same spot. Now, it might not have been as public as hers was, but they have been there, and they will be like, "Yeah, I know." And thankfully, there was no camera rolling and no officers, and people weren't writing about it in the newspaper or doing videos on it. And I could go about my merry way and try to fix it later. There are some people who will understand. There are other people, it's going to take them a while. It's going to take them a while. You're going to have to win them back. And they're going to have to see you shine your star brighter and work harder and feel like you really mean it when you say, "I'm sorry." Okay. So that's it. Don't mean to sound so on my soapbox-ish, but people are human. People make mistakes. We can find a pathway forward. All right. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Mwah. Peace.